to Let's Talk DeKalb. I'm your host, Diamond Lewis, in our DCTV control room. For this edition of LTD, we're focusing on the upcoming 2020 census. Throughout this show, we'll be highlighting the importance of the census and how it affects every person living in the United States, including right here in DeKalb County, in your community. District 3 Commissioner Larry Johnson joins us on this special program to talk about his role as chair of the DeKalb County Complete Count Committee. And we'll talk about some recent outreach efforts aimed at making the 2020 census count a huge success here in DeKalb County. And we'll be talking about how our census information is protected and kept confidential. The census is so important to us all. It's also mandated by the Constitution. This once-a-decade population count affects our representation in government, determines how much funding our communities receive, and provides data to help plan for our future. And we'll be talking about all of it. But first, we're checking in with our roving reporter, Jennifer Rice, who's out and about in DeKalb County during National Night Out. DeKalb County is getting the word out about the 2020 census during this annual event to help our county reach a 100% response rate. If we achieve that goal, DeKalb County receives $985 million per year for 10 years. Jennifer, DeKalb certainly has hit the ground running to put a spotlight on the census. How's it going out there?
Well, Diamond, it's really busy out here. There's a crowd out here, as you can see. There's food, music, and most of all, my favorite part, food trucks. But I'm also here with Monique Jones, who's a census volunteer. Can you tell me a little bit about why it's so important to fill out the census form?
I think the most important reason is just to be counted for. Completing the census allows for us to know how many people are here in the United States and to use that for things such as legislation, for things such as when we're building new roads and schools, and for most importantly for funding. How do they disperse the billions of dollars that they have in the government?
Well, you guys are doing a great job. We're going to toss it off to you, Diamond, while we're out here trying to stay cool. This is Jennifer Rice, roving reporter with Let's Talk DeKalb.
Thanks, Jennifer. Now, we'll check in with Jennifer throughout this show to see what she's up to during National Night Out. Stay with us. Much more of this special 2020 Census edition of LTD right after this. Welcome back to our 2020 Census edition of Let's Talk DeKalb. I'm Diamond Lewis. Now, the official census day isn't until April 1st, but efforts are already underway to get the word out. Having an accurate total of our population and households is critical for ensuring we receive proper representation in government, sufficient federal funding for schools, hospitals, roads, and public works, and so much more. Along those efforts, the county's Board of Commissioners unanimously chose District 3 Commissioner Larry Johnson to chair DeKalb County's Complete Count Committee. And joining us now to talk about this Census Committee and its goals is Commissioner Larry Johnson. Thank you so much for joining us today on Let's Talk DeKalb to talk all about the census here in our county.
Yes, it's good to be here and be a part of the census. This movement is so exciting because you get to educate folks, you get to work with other neighborhood leaders, connect with other elected leaders, but you get to spread the word. It's just a great community service, and I'm glad people are embracing it.
Now, the first and most critical question, Commissioner, why is it important to participate in the census and make sure that we're all counted?
We only had a 72% return rate 10 years ago that cost us $275 million. That's a lot of money that could have went towards sidewalks, our roads, helping with Head Start, our senior programs, first-time homebuyer programs, things that the federal government pays for that we don't have to take out of our general budget could have been gotten with this type of funding. And so that's why it's crucial. That's why we're doing this education awareness campaign so early. We've gotten the commissioners involved, the CEO involved, we got the mayors of cities involved, and we're going to continue to beat the path. We're going to the highways, the byways, we're going to reach the grassroots, to the grass tops, and let them know everyone has to be counted. And that's our goal.
Okay, so let's play devil's advocate here. What if a DeKalb County resident does not participate in the census? How does something as simple as a population count affect our day-to-day life?
It impacts your day-to-day life because that traffic light that you have to stop at, that sidewalk where you see a child or a senior walking on. If you talk about schools and having better schools, all of those numbers are used to get the funding allocations in your community. So the less people that take it, the less money you have coming back from the federal government to help you pay for these things that we need. And so I look at that as very critical. You're not participating really impacts your community in so many ways, and then you don't get another chance to do it for 10 years. So you add that up every year times 10, that's how much money we've lost.
And in addition to bringing in the critical funding for the quality of life measures you just mentioned, the census has an immediate impact of job creation on the local, state, and even federal level. How can our viewers apply for those opportunities?
Well, they need to go to the census.gov site. You want to get paid weekly, you have benefits, and it's a great job, an opportunity to expand your experience and resume. And also, you'll be helping your fellow citizens. I mean, how many folks can do a job that you now are impacting your community and you'll get something out of it? The enjoyment, the opportunity to connect with other folks. I see it as a win-win situation. I think people should take advantage of.
And another win-win is making sure we get an early start on the census process and educating our public about its importance. Now, Commissioner, talk to us about the work that has already begun here in DeKalb County related to the 2020 census.
Yeah, we have, my goal was to start to do the foundational things. And that was to start a complete count committee, the Board of Commissioners and the CEO. We voted to have that complete count. The commissioners have now appointed, and the CEOs appointed people to this complete count committee. We've also did outreaches already. I mean, we've been to different commissioners' events. We've also hit other events that the team has been hired to do. You have a coordinator and an assistant that's already hired, that's beating the ground and helping to gather the data to making sure that we are on point when we try to reach out to specific communities. We've engaged other cities to make sure that they get their complete count committee registered with our U.S. Census. And so these foundational things in this short period of time helps us as we get ready for April 1st when the initial rollout for people to have to fill out the census come out. So we've started this education awareness campaign pretty strong, and we're going to continue to try to reach out and just make things happen.
Making it happen in DeKalb County, indeed. Thanks, Commissioner. All right, we'll be checking in with you again, Commissioner Johnson, a little later in the show. Right now, we're taking a look at another population count, vital for making sure we take care of everyone in DeKalb County. I'm talking about the homeless count. DCTV's Aviva Hoffman has more on how this unique count also helps our communities receive needed services and programs.
Each January, droves of volunteers hit the streets to count homeless persons throughout DeKalb County.
So you're going to be sleeping here tonight?
This effort is coordinated through DeKalb's Public Safety Department and other county departments and employees.
Everybody got your requests for shelter forms? Okay.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
The homeless count is part of a federal requirement to conduct a homeless census throughout the United States, so our communities receive the proper federal funding to address homelessness, worth millions of dollars a year.
We always pick January because that tends to be colder, and that's a true sign of people that are really homeless. On warmer nights, found too many people out there really homeless.
The federal mandate requires a homeless count every other year, but DeKalb County actually counts our homeless population every year. On the off years, DeKalb County contracts with the VA to go out and count homeless individuals.
You ever serve in the military? Yes. That's really important because not only are we able to claim and take down federal and state funds in order to support our services to the homeless, but it also tells us more about the population and what we can do to help them.
The aim is to get a better picture of both our unsheltered homeless, those living in a place not designed for regular sleeping, and our sheltered homeless, those living in emergency shelters and transitional housing. Over the years, DeKalb County's homeless numbers have trended downward, but there's still a lot of work to be done to end homelessness altogether.
We want everybody in DeKalb County to be well housed, to be safe, and to be healthy. And so we know that living under a bridge or in a car is not consistent with that goal. We want to get people into good, supportive housing,
You don't have any permanent
help
housing
them
there?
to address their issues and become productive citizens in our county.
Well, let me ask the question. Would you like to go to a shelter tonight?
The homeless count also helps us understand the changes in the homeless population over time and helps increase awareness of our homeless issue. Accurate data is needed to track the success of local efforts to end homelessness.
How many times have you been homeless without a permanent place to live in the past 3 years?
To find out more about the January homeless count and programs and services for DeKalb's homeless, go to the county website and look for the Community Development site under the Departments tab. Counting the homeless helps our communities receive needed services and programs. And just like the annual Count of the Homeless in DeKalb County, a special one-night Count of the Homeless will take place in March for the 2020 census. Volunteers are already putting together an action plan and mapping out locations for that count, all to be sure every person counts. Aviva Hoffman, Let's Talk DeKalb. Diamond, back to you.
Thanks, Aviva. That's quite a task the volunteers have, counting everyone in those late night hours. But what an important job it certainly is, and we thank those volunteers for their service. Now, let's check in with roving reporter Jennifer Rice to highlight more of the county's 2020 census efforts at this year's National Night Out. Jennifer?
That's right, Diamond. As your ear to the streets, I'm seeing how DeKalb is putting the us in census. And the census volunteers are handing out these neat little cards with information on it to the citizens of DeKalb. So let's talk to one of our very own. What have you learned from the volunteers and the cards they're giving out?
I learned that the census are confidential, which is really good because a lot of people like to be private.
Yes, that is good. It's great that you're out here getting more information for yourself. Does this make you want to get more involved in the census and make sure your family fills out the forms?
Yeah, it seems really interesting. I like it.
Well, you heard it here first. We're going to be here enjoying all the festivities of National Night Out. I'm Jennifer Rice, your roving reporter with Let's Talk DeKalb. Back to you, Diamond.
Thanks, Jennifer. We'll see you again a bit later. There's more to come on this 2020 Census LTD, including a talk about what to expect when your census form arrives. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our special 2020 Census edition of Let's Talk DeKalb. I'm your host, Diamond Lewis. It takes a lot of planning and effort to successfully count everyone who lives in the United States. Chief of Field Division for the Census Bureau, Dale Kelly, joins us now to talk more about what goes into getting a complete and accurate count. Welcome to the show, Dale.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Dale, we covered a lot of important points about the 2020 census in our interview earlier with Commissioner Larry Johnson, but this process is so important for our country and indeed right here in DeKalb County. In your words, why do we need to make sure everyone is counted throughout the nation and in our own communities?
Thank you so much for that question. The census is important to Atlanta because the information that results from the census determines so much in terms of public funding that will flow to Atlanta, the counties in Atlanta for schools, for emergency services, hospitals, roads. It's very important in terms of how many representatives the state of Georgia will have in Congress. It offers jobs. Get a job with the Census Bureau, become census takers, and we have about 2,900 jobs that are available in the Atlanta area. So today is a call to action to ask the folks of Atlanta to go to our website at 2020census.gov/jobs and apply.
Wow, that's a lot of census job openings. We mentioned them briefly earlier in the show, but what kind of jobs specifically are there? And what's the pay?
So the pay ranges from $17.50 to $22 an hour, depending on the position. We have census takers, supervisors, as well as some office workers in the Atlanta area. But of course, the biggest number of positions we need to fill are the census takers. And those are the people who will go out in the Atlanta region and knock on doors and get those responses from people who don't self-respond either via internet, mail, or by calling in.
And Dale, what are the qualifications that you have to work for the census?
So a U.S. citizen, you're required to have a Social Security card number, a valid number. All of the information and requirements are listed at the 2020 census.gov/jobs website. So I certainly encourage people to go out and certainly go to that website to look at all of the requirements and qualification.
Dale, once those census takers begin their work, what should our residents expect?
So what they can expect is a census taker showing up at their door who will have a badge for their identification. It will have their photo on it, as well as the Commerce Department logo. They can also expect to see someone with an iPhone that will also have the census logo, as well as a bag with the census logo on it. And this census taker will have information regarding census and the 2020 census and what they're doing there and why they're there, that they will be handing out to the respondent.
Now, we talked about this a little earlier in our show, but how does the U.S. Census Bureau keep everyone's responses confidential and secure?
And it's very important for people to know that as a Census Bureau employee, we all take an oath to maintain the confidentiality of everyone's information. That just doesn't start with the census. That is a by law requirement. And by law, the Census Bureau is mandated to maintain the confidentiality of the information we collect. So we do not share that information with other agencies, law enforcement agencies. It's strictly confidential, and we post, and when we publish information, as you will note, and the folks in Atlanta will note, that information is published at a statistical level. We strip any identifying information from the information that we publish.
Now, Dale, tell us, where can our viewers go to find out more about the 2020 census and especially the job openings?
Thank you for that question. By going to 2020 census.gov/jobs, we are listing all of the events that are taking place across this country. We have a neat map where folks can click on in their area, and it will give them the location and information about that event.
Well, I can tell you firsthand, it's a great site and it's easy to navigate. Dale, thank you so much for joining us on this special edition of LTD and for helping us cover some really important information about the upcoming 2020 census.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're heading out again to roving reporter Jennifer Rice at this year's National Night Out, where the county is already spreading the word all about the 2020 census. Jennifer, how's it going out there?
That's right, Diamond. Everyone at home, turn your volume buttons up just a little bit because I'm going to bring you into I and Stephanie's conversation. Stephanie, can you tell me a little bit about why you think it's so important that we should fill out the census?
Well, one of the things people don't realize is a lot of funding that comes to your community and your schools comes from your census being counted. And if you don't fill out your form and your family doesn't, then the government doesn't know where to send money, and you're keeping your community from getting the money that they're supposed to be getting.
And what are some common misconceptions people might have about the census?
I think people are scared that maybe it's going to bring the police to their house, or that they're going to get caught doing something, or they're just scared of putting their name on forms. And nobody gets to see that information for at least a decade. And so you filling that out doesn't have any impact on you other than helping to bring money to your community that's very needed.
Well, Diamond, that does it for us here. I'm going to head on over to the fire trucks, so we're going to toss it back to you. I'm Jennifer Rice, your roving reporter with Let's Talk DeKalb.
Thanks, Jennifer. I counted a lot of enthusiasm for our 2020 census out there. Still to come on this special edition of Let's Talk DeKalb, more of our talk with Commissioner Larry Johnson and your 2020 census data right after this. Welcome back to Let's Talk DeKalb, our 2020 Census Edition. I'm your host, Diamond Lewis. We're continuing our talk about all things census and especially some of the misconceptions people have about it. DeKalb County Commissioner Larry Johnson, who's also the chair of DeKalb's Complete Count Committee, is back with us again. Now, Commissioner Johnson, you've been out there, you've canvassed the communities. What would you like to tell our viewers about the many misconceptions and what's actual reality when it comes to the census?
The misconception is that you don't want anybody in your business and this will be used against you, but this is going to be used to help you. It's going to be used for you to help you plan out the future for your grandkids, your great-grandkids, for neighborhoods that's yet to come, for just making us a better place. And so if everybody participate in the census, you're now helping the future generation. It's a great community service, like I said before. And so get the information to us, and the government's going to use it in the right way. And a lot of folks have embraced that, because if you look now in what folks are putting online or social media, there's more information out there about you than what the census is going to ask.
You said the government is going to use that information in the right way, and I really want to focus on that and highlight the fact that the information cannot be used against the respondent. Is that right?
They have very strong privacy laws. There's criminal penalties if someone tries to misuse this information. And so I really feel confident the information that is provided will be secure and will be used to make sure our schools are built right. This is all about funding, economic development. How do we get those dollars returned back to us with an accurate count that can bode well for us in the future?
Now, Commissioner Johnson, I have actually been alongside you, hitting the streets of DeKalb County to get the word out about the 2020 census. Talk to us about your ongoing efforts to make sure all of DeKalb County is counted.
I've tried to be very intentional to make sure that we hit every sector of DeKalb. From any neighborhood, we went from Doraville all the way down to Decatur, talking to every ethnic group that would listen to make sure that they understand how important the census is, meeting with HOAs, meeting with PTA presidents, meeting with our school board, meeting with our elected leaders of cities, engaging our county commissioners to making sure that they have the tools they need to explain to folks. We're going to go wherever the people are to make sure that we can explain, but our goal is to bring people from those communities to help us explain and understand the message is the census is important. Everyone needs to be counted. Our quality of life is impacted. Our political decisions that we make in the future are impacted. These numbers that we're trying to bring in and get returned will only bode well for us in the future.
Commissioner Larry Johnson, thank you so much for joining us. We know DeKalb County will undoubtedly have a good showing for the 2020 census.
All right, thank you, DeKalb, for listening. We need you. We want you to be a part. Hashtag Count Me In DeKalb. Look it up and come on to be a part.
Absolutely. Hashtag Count Me In DeKalb. Again, that's hashtag Count Me In DeKalb. Now it's time for a final check with our roving reporter, Jennifer Rice, who's highlighting DeKalb's early efforts to spread the word about the 2020 census. She joins us again from National Night Out. Jennifer?
That's right, Diamond. I'm also out here with a bunch of busy bees, and everyone's getting down to the music, as you can see. And I'm here with Sherry. Sherry, can you tell me how you feel about the community doing these type of events where they're educating people about the census and National Night Out?
Hi, yes, I think this is a great event. DeKalb Public Library is hosting. They're giving medical resources, access to the census, access to school supplies, which is needed in the community. They have music and hula hoop contests. The kids are getting involved, the parents are getting involved, and it's just a great event for the community.
Well, remember, I count, you count, and DeKalb counts. It has been a pleasure being your roving reporter for Let's Talk DeKalb, but I have to head off back to school, so we're going to toss it back to you, Diamond.
Thanks, Jennifer. You can hashtag Count Me in DeKalb too. Now, as Jennifer is heading to North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University to continue her education, we here at DCTV certainly wish her all the best, and we look forward to learning more about her future accomplishments. In this edition of Let's Talk DeKalb, I think we accomplished our goal of helping you navigate the ins and outs of the upcoming 2020 census. However, if you want to find out even more about the census, you can go online and visit the website at 2020census.gov. That's also where you'll find information about the 2020 census jobs. The U.S. Census Bureau is recruiting thousands of people for a variety of temporary jobs across the country to assist with the census count. To be eligible, you must be at least 18 years old, have a valid Social Security number, and be a U.S. citizen. That brings us to the end of this special edition of Let's Talk DeKalb on the 2020 census. We'd love to hear from you about your thoughts on this show and all of our other programming. You can send us an email to dctv@DeKalbCountyGA.gov. And don't forget to stay connected to DCTV through our social media channels and also get exclusive access to additional DCTV videos on all of those sites. And for the latest on DeKalb County news, visit us online at DCTV-channel23.tv or give us a call at 404-371-2989. Well, that's going to do it for this special census edition of Let's Talk DeKalb. I'm Diamond Lewis, and I'll see you next time.